So I was just at the FPEA Homeschool Convention for 2026 here in my beloved state of Florida, in Orlando, Florida. And I was actually one of their speakers, and I got to teach and speak all about how to start milling your grains, home milling, real whole grains, biblical foods, all of those things. And I also got a booth and got to speak with people as well. And pretty much the whole time that I was there, I was absolutely flooded with questions about home milling and real whole grains. So I decided to do this video because frankly, to get started with milling your grains, it really comes down to 5 simple and easy steps. So if you have been intimidated at the process of milling your own grains at home, then this video is definitely for you. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, I teach you all about real whole grains, all from a biblical perspective. I teach you how and why to be milling your own grains, the importance of whole grains, how they're a superfood, everything with grains, we do it here. And I've actually been milling for well over a decade. So I was milling before it was cool, y'all. I've been doing it for a very long time. So I definitely know a thing or two, and I'm very, very passionate about it. Okay, so let's just break this down and get it started because I know that it seems daunting. It seems overwhelming to get started with milling grains at home, especially because this is like a lost skill that for thousands of years our ancestors knew about, passed down from generation to generation. And we've been so far removed from it to actually do this just seems crazy. It just seems crazy. But I think we can all agree that the bread today is not making us healthy. Probably many of y'all watching this have some sort of problem with the flour from the store and the bread from the store. And there is certainly a reason for that. It is dead, it is fake. So, milling your own wheat and baking that bread at home, consuming real whole grains, is the only real true way to actually consume real bread. So, let's break it down to just 5 easy steps to get you started. So, step number one is probably obvious. You need a grain mill. You need some way to grind the wheat berries and whatever grains it is to make it into flour. In essence, you're making your own flour. And for those who don't know, you start with the wheat berries, which is what you see here. Basically, the grains or the seeds. It's what grows on the wheat stalk. This is what the farmers harvest, and then these wheat berries are ground up, and that's what makes flour. Now, real whole grain flour has all of the bran and the germ and all of the nutrients in it. Dead white flour at the store to make white flour, the bran and germ are removed to make white flour. So a whole lot of nutrients is gone in your white flour. So to mill it at home, you actually buy the wheat berries and then you grind it up. Now, typically, I do recommend a standalone grain mill for this. Thankfully, y'all, we have tons of electric grain mills. So you don't have to go out and buy a mule and a millstone and be walking around it in your backyard. We are way beyond that today, y'all. Now, I do actually have a video that I highly recommend for all of y'all. I will link that up here and below, where basically it is watch this first before buying a grain mill. And it really walks you through the process of helping you choose a grain mill. There are a variety of grain mills that I do recommend. And so I definitely recommend you watching that video. And one thing that I state is there is a variety of them out there, but if you go with the trusted brands that have been around for a long time and have a solid reputation, these are brands like Nutrimil, Wondermill, Mockmill, and Como Mill, then you're really going to be in good hands. Now, unfortunately, if you were watching this in May, June of 2026, right now, you may find that, oh my word, why are all the grain mills sold out? Do you know that this has not been normal? Again, I've been doing this for well over a decade, and grain mills are constantly going out of stock right now. I have 2 theories on that, and I did do a video about that. I'll link it up here and down below. So bottom line is, if you see a grain mill in stock and you like it, you're going to want to snag it up. We're just kind of in unprecedented times. It has been this way since the beginning of 2025, like end of 2024, beginning of 2025. And since then, companies are frequently out of grain mills. So I will go ahead and tell you that the only company right now that I see actually getting their grain mills back in stock, it may be a few months, but at least you're more than likely able to get a grain mill, is Nutrimil. And they have the Nutrimil Classic, the Nutrimil Harvest, and the Nutrimil Impact. At some point, some are out of stock, some are in stock, but those are the ones that I least see them coming every few months. Because if you are looking at those European grain mills like the mock mill and the Como mill, I've heard people waiting 4 months for them and then still getting pushed back even further. So they're way more unpredictable than buying the grain mills that are kind of American based companies. And of course, this is for if you're in the United States. All right. So, step number two, this is actually an optional step, and that is getting you a good quality mixer. Now, the reason that I say that this is completely optional is because you are perfectly capable of kneading bread dough by hand. And many recipes, you don't need a mixer because you just need a bowl and a whisk. It all depends on what you make. But mixers are very, very, very nice to have because it saves you time, it saves you arm strength, and it just makes the process easier. Now, the mixers that I recommend are the Bosch Universal Mixer Plus, the Nutrimel Artiste, the Angar Scrum Mixer, and newly done is the Zacme mixer. And that is because these mixers have powerful motors and torque that can actually handle the heaviness of the dough using freshly milled grains. So when you actually switch over to freshly milled grains, you will notice very quickly that it's just a heavier dough because you've got the bran and the germ, you got all these nutrients in it. That doesn't mean your bread will be dense, but it just means it's a heavier dough. And your typical stand mixers, like your regular KitchenAid, have those smaller motors that you may burn out your motor sooner using this type of dough. I do tell people use what you have. If you've got a KitchenAid, go ahead and use it. But just know that if you use it consistently, it may shorten the life of that motor. And also, you have a capacity issue as well. With these other mixers, you have the ability to have higher capacity, make more bread dough at the same time, thus saving you more time in the kitchen. So those are things to consider. And any and all videos I have on mixers, comparing them, so on and so forth, I will link down in the description box below. I will also link the video of kneading dough by hand because that's there as well. Now, step number three was actually my most asked question at the homeschool convention. Like every single person asked this. And that is step number three is you need to get grains. And so the question I was always asked is, well, where do I buy grains? Because if you notice, wheat berries typically are not sold in stores, only very selective, like your healthier type stores like Whole Foods, things like that. Well, first of all, I recommend start it going to my website. You just got to go to grainsandgrit.com/buy grains. And there I have a list of companies and farmers that I myself have used personally. Therefore, I can vet for them that you're going to get clean grains, good grains, so on and so forth. And any coupon codes that I have, they will be there as well. On that page is also a link to companies for mixers and grain mills. And again, coupon codes for any of those. And I actually have extra things that I would like to recommend as well. So it's like, go to that page and you'll see all the things. But bottom line, there are three types of grains that I recommend for those who are starting out. You're basically just going to want a hard red or hard white wheat for your yeast type breads because they're going to help. They're going to be really good for rising that bread dough and getting your nice tall loaves. Now, hard red is more of a whole wheaty type flavor, a bit nuttier flavor. It's going to be a darker type, red, that whole wheat type bread look, where hard white, as the name implies, is going to be a whiter looking type bread, not like bleached white like Wonder Bread, but a whiter type bread and also a milder flavor. So for those of y'all who may have families that do not like a whole wheat type flavor, I would start with hard white, although the hard red is absolutely delicious and you do not want to dismiss that. And then, of course, you want to get soft white wheat for your baked goods. So like your cookies, your cakes, you can use all of these grains for ones like muffins and pancakes and waffles. So it's kind of a variety of things that you can use them for. But your soft white wheat has that lower type gluten content. When it mills, it actually looks very close to white flour because it's just a finer. I think the bran is finer. It just looks whiter. And so it's perfect for cakes, cookies, cornbreads, your biscuits, especially. Now, at the beginning, I do say ignore the ancient and heritage grains. And I know that that is a huge appeal because people believe that einkorn is the only wheat that we should have. And I've absolutely nothing against ancient grains. I love them. But when using freshly milled ancient grains like Corazon and einkorn, they can just be tricky. and they are weird. And I don't want you to get discouraged. So that's why I say start with your kind of more modern grains because they are just easier grains to work with. Build up your skills and then start experimenting with those beloved ancient and heritage grain varieties. Step number 4 is get trained. And yes, it is full blown shameless plug time. Okay. Because first of all, I highly recommend this YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, this is what I do. And I solely focus on real whole grains. That is my niche. This is why I am here. And beauty of YouTube, it is a completely free resource. And most likely, if you have a question, I probably have done a video about it. So if you just ever search, for example, and you can do this even like on Google or in YouTube itself, grains and grit, whatever question you may have. So grains and grit, sandwich bread, grains and grit, cookies, grains and grit, where to buy grains, things like that. And most likely those videos will come up. So that's the beauty of YouTube. Like I said, is this is an absolutely free resource. But beyond there, I do recommend, of course, my cookbook. My cookbook is actually, I designed it for newbies. It's the cookbook that I wish that I had. And I do talk about how and why to be milling grains, how to choose a grain mill, how to choose a mixer. We talk about bread machines, all of that. So I'll link all of these below. But this is perfect for the newbies. Every recipe in here you are going to recognize. It is kid approved. My kids love every single recipe in here. There are no ingredients that look foreign or weird. And so that's why I made this cookbook because it's just perfect for starting off with. And then if you really want to dive deep, then I highly recommend my training course. This is the course of course. If you want to dive deep and actually master milling with grains in way shorter of a time period, it took me years to figure this out. And I did this course. So basically, it could take you about 2 weeks to feel far more confident, to not be as intimidated by grains. And so the difference between people ask me this too, like, well, what about, should I get your cookbook or should I get your training course? And really the difference is it depends on your learning style. The cookbook is definitely more of a self-taught type course, whereas the training program is instructor led. I am there to hold your hand and guide you through every step of the way. Now, step number 5, this one's easy, y'all, and that is to enjoy. It really comes down to that when you have actually mastered, at least one recipe or whenever that first recipe, whatever it may be, turns out amazing, and then you taste real bread for the first time in your life, it is absolutely incredible and you will be sold. And so this is just where I say enjoy it, have fun, learn from the experiences. I started doing this and I barely knew how to cook, much less bake anything. And I just started and I floundered. So if I can do this, you can do this. And I remember the very first time that I tried anything with freshly milled wheat, it was actually spelt pancakes and it was life changing, instantly noticeable. And that's what made me ask, what is different about this? And they gave me a CD that was Sue Becker's CD, and we listened to it and we were sold. And we've been doing it ever since. Now, I do have a bonus step for y'all. Bonus is once you get all through this, share with your friends. Share the goodness of real whole grains and real bread. Let us break bread together. As the song says, invite people over, feed them these delicious baked goods, give loaves to someone else, give cookies to other people. I loved hearing at the conference how people said that, hey, I found you on YouTube or I heard your talk last year and that inspired me to start milling. And I've since gotten 5 or 6 of my friends to be doing the same thing as well, which I think is awesome. I do see that home milling is certainly picking up. It is taking off. More and more people are becoming aware of this, which is awesome. We need to take back our staff of life because the flour industry took away our bread. They broke our staff of life about 125 years ago. But good news is it's now easier than ever to get it back thanks to resources like YouTube, online courses, cookbooks, the fact that more and more people are aware of this and that we have electric grain mills, so on and so forth. It's now easier than ever to get started and enjoying this bread. So again, I know that it is intimidating and seems overwhelming to start off with. You are going to be slow starting off, as with anyone who is learning a new skill. For any of my homeschool mamas out there or anyone who has been a parent, whenever your child learns to read, they are very slow and they stumble and they make mistakes and it takes some time, but then eventually they get comfortable with it and then really take off and then love being readers. So, just like with any skill, you're going to be slow, but you can do this. I am here to help you, and that's what I'm here for. And so, I encourage you to take that leap. And for those of y'all who already are milling your wheat, consuming real whole grains, who've already started your milling journey, if you have any tips for anyone, leave them down in the description box below and let's help each other out. If you're wanting to know the importance of why we should be milling our grains, why we should be consuming real whole grains, then this video is for you. I do believe it's important to know the why behind things. And so you're going to want to check that out. And as always, I hope that y'all have an absolutely wonderful day and I'll see you next week. Bye.